thousands of people drove 3 hours through the Italian countryside for a single reason. Not a concert, not a film premiere, not a festival with fireworks and free food. They came because one woman was stepping out of a car. And when that car door opened, the noise that erupted from that crowd was the kind of sound you feel in your chest, not just here. That woman was Catherine, the Princess of Wales. And what happened next, no PR team on earth could have scripted. What we are about to walk through is not just a celebrity story. It is not just another round in an ongoing feud. It is something far more interesting, a real time lesson playing out in front of millions about what authenticity actually looks like when it finally collides with performance, about what patience looks like when it finally meets its moment. Today we are diving into one of the most revealing weeks in recent royal history, because while Catherine was getting down on the floor with Italian children who ran to her with their arms wide open, something else was happening exactly 6,000 miles away in Montecito, California. Meghan Markle was posting a promotional video that left the entire internet speechless, not in the way she intended. Within 9 minutes, the collective reaction online had coalesced around the same basic feeling: bewilderment. The kind of wide-eyed, head-tilting confusion that happens when someone presents a version of themselves that the audience simply does not believe. What accounts from journalists and insiders reveal is that this was not just a bad week for Meghan. It was the week the contrast between these two women became impossible to ignore. Not because anyone planned it that way. Not because some royal communications office choreographed the timing. Just because real things and performed things, when placed side by side, have a way of making themselves obvious. Let's talk about what really happened, starting with the moment in northern Italy that the royal world is still talking about. Catherine had traveled to a small city called Reggio Emilia. Not Rome, not Florence, not one of the grand photogenic tourist destinations that a communications team would book for optics. She chose Reggio Emilia specifically because it is home to one of the most internationally respected early childhood education programs on the planet. That detail matters. It matters enormously. She did not choose it for the backdrop. She chose it because it is genuinely the best in the world at what she cares about most. Catherine has spent over a decade quietly building her early years project, a cause rooted in the science of child development, specifically the idea that the first few years of a child's life shape virtually everything that follows. She has read the academic papers. She has visited programs around the world. She has spoken directly with developmental psychologists and neuroscientists. When she arrived in Reggio Emilia, the educators there knew she had done her homework. They could feel the difference between a fly-in wave and smile
it belongs
visit
to someone else now.
and someone who genuinely
younger.
understood their work. And then something happened that stopped everyone in their tracks. Catherine began speaking to the children in Italian, not tourist Italian, not phrases from a phrase book, fluent, natural, confident Italian, because almost nobody knew until that moment that she had actually lived in Florence before university. She had never dropped it into interviews to seem impressive. She had never made a performance of it. It simply came out in context, the way it does for someone who absorbed a language through actually living it. Royal commentator Hugo Vickers, a man who does not traffic in empty compliments, watched the footage and used 2 words: completely natural. He called it a perfect royal tour and a genuine fact-finding mission. He said it looked nothing like a stage setup. In that pause, in that diplomatic phrasing, everyone watching understood exactly who he was not talking about. To understand why Italy felt like such a turning point, you need to go back. Not to last year. Not to the cancer diagnosis. You need to go back almost 20 years to a young woman being photographed outside her university flat before she had even married into anything, before she had a title or a cause or a platform, before the world had decided what to make of her. What many people don't know is how much Catherine absorbed in those early years of public life without saying a single word about it. Paparazzi outside her building. Cruel commentary about her weight, too thin, then comments about any change, then back again. Topless photographs published without her consent in 2012, a violation serious enough to go to court. Phone hacking, relentless speculation about her marriage, her expressions, her motivations. For years, a persistent suggestion from people who should have known better that she was somehow empty. A woman who had merely waited patiently to marry well. She never gave a revenge interview. Not once. She never planted a story designed to make someone else look bad. She never called a journalist to say what she really thought. She showed up. She did the work. She said thank you to her medical teams, and she went home, and she came back the next day. And then last year, privately and quietly, she received a cancer diagnosis. While she was going through treatment, while she and William were figuring out how to explain it to 3 young children in age-appropriate terms, social media decided her absence was suspicious. Conspiracy theories spread. People who had never met her, who had no relationship with her beyond consuming content about her, felt entitled to demand explanations. When she finally did speak publicly about the diagnosis, she chose 4 words that tell you everything about who she is. You are not alone. Not look what I've been through. Not feel sorry for me. She turned it outward. For anyone watching who had received similar news, or who feared receiving it, or who was sitting with someone who had, you are not alone. That is not something that comes from a PR strategy session. That comes from a person who, even at the hardest moment of her private life, is thinking about someone other than herself. Now compare that to the backstory on the other side. Meghan and Harry left senior royal duties in 2020, citing, among other reasons, a desire for financial independence. They did not want King Charles to have control over their finances. They wanted to prove it could be done on their own terms. Insider accounts from those who followed the deals closely reveal a string of ambitious announcements: Netflix, Spotify, speaking engagements, the memoir, the Hollywood connections. The Spotify deal alone was reportedly worth somewhere between $18 and $20 million. It produced 1 podcast season. Netflix canceled shows. Spotify is long gone. And Hollywood doors that were supposed to fly open have remained, in the words of one observer, stubbornly shut. Sources close to the couple have confirmed what observers had begun to suspect. Harry and Meghan need a minimum of $6 million every year just to cover their basic cost of living in Montecito. $6 million before anything extra. $3 million of that goes directly to private security. Then, there is the mortgage on a $15 million property, the staff, the travel, everything else that comes with maintaining a life in one of the most expensive enclaves in the United States. The As Ever lifestyle brand, the jams, the honeys, the teas, the candles, was supposed to meaningfully address that equation. It has not done that. Let's talk about the video. Right around the same time Catherine was in the streets of Reggio Emilia, being mobbed by children and cheered by thousands, Meghan Markle posted a new promotional video for her As Ever brand. It was supposed to generate excitement and sales momentum for her product range. What it generated instead was bewilderment, on an almost industrial scale. Meghan appeared in an evening gown. She was touching her chest. She was gazing into the camera with what appeared to be an attempt at smoldering intensity. She was drinking tea in a manner that one commenter described perfectly as trying to be seductive or aspirational. We're still not entirely sure which. 9 minutes. That is how long it took for the entire internet to land on the same reaction. One comment that kept being shared said it looked like an audition reel for a show nobody commissioned. Another described it as the behavior of someone who genuinely believes they are more fascinating than the rest of us find them. Those descriptions circulated so widely because they captured something true, a gap between how Meghan sees herself and how audiences receive her. That gap has been there for a while. But that week, with Catherine's Italy coverage running in parallel, it did not look like a gap anymore. It looked like a canyon. Now let's be fair about something. Nobody should begrudge anyone the right to promote their business. Building a lifestyle brand is genuinely hard. The execution of this particular video, though, revealed something more troubling than a misjudged creative choice. It revealed someone who either does not have advisors telling her the truth or has advisors telling her the truth and is not listening. And the brand itself is struggling in ways that go beyond one awkward promotional clip. One product, a candle, reportedly arrived without a wick. The orange marmalade has become an ongoing joke online, partly because it is not technically marmalade in any traditional sense, and partly because the gap between the lavish cinematic presentation and the fairly ordinary product underneath has struck people as emblematic of a bigger problem. The packaging is exquisite. The branding is gorgeous. But customers are not rushing back in the numbers needed to put a meaningful dent in a $6 million annual operating cost. Then, Saturday Night Live happened. During Weekend Update, Snell made a joke about King Charles visiting the United States. The show was marking the 250th anniversary of American independence, and the punchline involved Meghan being described as an American terrorist. The audience laughed. The show moved on. Because that is what Snell does. It has done it to presidents, to heads of state, to A-list celebrities. Nobody is off limits, and everybody who has ever watched the show knows this. According to sources, Meghan was furious, and the reaction inside her circle was immediate. NBC was placed on a permanent blacklist. Read that back slowly. NBC, the largest broadcasting network in the United States, blacklisted. Because a comedy program made a joke. What whispers from inside her media circle suggest is that Meghan does not see the Snell joke as sharp topical comedy that will be forgotten within a news cycle. She sees it as something deliberate, personal, and establishment-sponsored. Something aimed specifically at her. Here is where it becomes genuinely consequential as a strategy. CBS had historically been Meghan's most important American media relationship. The Oprah interview was on CBS. Gayle King is a major presence at CBS Mornings. But CBS has changed. New ownership, new leadership in the news division. The late-night host, who was openly supportive of Harry and Meghan, is gone. If NBC is blacklisted and CBS is no longer the reliable ally it once was, where exactly is the media strategy pointing? Because you cannot build a lifestyle brand or maintain relevance in modern American culture without media access. You simply cannot. While the brand stumbled and the blacklist grew, the story underneath, the one that deserves far more attention, was happening at the Invictus Games. Invictus was supposed to be the untouchable part of Harry's post-royal identity. Whatever your view of the decisions he and Meghan have made, the idea of an international sporting event designed for wounded and sick armed forces personnel is unimpeachably good. It comes from something real. Veterans deserve recognition. Nobody disputes that. Which is exactly why what is happening now is so painful to watch. Boeing, one of the games' major sponsors, pulled out of Invictus 2027. Gone. The Australian government, following Harry and Meghan's controversial visit, pulled nearly £5 million in funding. Gone. The organization actually filed for bankruptcy in 2023, a fact that received remarkably little attention but needs to be stated plainly. The Invictus Games Foundation declared bankruptcy. The UK government has since committed £26 million of public money to keep the games operational. British taxpayer money going to an organization that has already been through bankruptcy and is hemorrhaging sponsors. Accounts from journalists covering the situation also include allegations, disputed but taken seriously by departing donors, that Invictus funds were being directed toward private jets, 5-star hotels, and personal travel for Harry and Meghan. The veterans who compete in Invictus have given something real. Many have given limbs and years of health they will never get back. The idea that their event has become a backdrop for a celebrity couple's identity project is not merely disappointing to the people who revere the armed forces. It is infuriating. On the same day that King Charles traveled quietly to Golders Green to personally visit members of the Jewish community who had been violently attacked weeks earlier, not for cameras, not for a byline, just to show up for people who were frightened and hurt, a polished political essay about anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom appeared in a left-wing magazine under Harry's name. Dickie Arbiter, who served as press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth, watched all of this and used one word to describe it: contrived. He said everything Harry does now is contrived by the people driving him, and that the timing of that essay was not accidental. Almost nobody who follows Harry's public output closely believes he wrote it. The language is too measured, too politically calibrated, and the contrast, the simple, devastating, unspoken contrast, was there for everyone to see. His father was at Golders Green that day, doing the work, without a byline. So what comes next? Sources say a vow renewal ceremony is being seriously discussed inside Meghan's circle. The framing being developed around it, Harry and Meghan never got the wedding they truly deserved. The institution surrounding it was problematic. A vow renewal would finally be the celebration they were denied. Harry and Meghan had one of the most watched weddings in recent memory. Billions of people watched it live. The choir, the trumpet voluntary, it is still remembered and replayed years later. It was by any objective measure a spectacular, globally watched historic event. And the argument now is that it was not enough. Insiders say the real motivation is commercial. A vow renewal creates content. It creates coverage that can be licensed and sold. It creates the opportunity for a documentary, a streaming deal, something that generates the income the current brand portfolio is not generating. Meanwhile, William and Catherine are heading to Australia. They will not issue any statements about Harry and Meghan. They will not give interviews acknowledging the noise. They will show up. They will do the work. They will engage with people genuinely, quietly, consistently, the way they always do. And the comparison will make itself. It always does. That is the part that perhaps was never fully understood from the very beginning. The monarchy does not need to publicly defeat you. It does not need to fight back in the press. It simply needs to continue. It needs to keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep being there. And eventually, the contrast becomes so clear that no amount of brand management can obscure it. Not a sultry promotional video. Not a political essay dropped for strategic timing. Not a vow renewal ceremony designed to generate licensing revenue. Not an NBC blacklist. None of it can obscure 20 years of genuine behavior. Here is what accounts from those closest to the royal world reveal about Catherine that rarely gets said plainly. She came to Italy alone. No William beside her, no senior family members sharing the stage, just her. And when that car door opened and the crowd roar went up, that sound was entirely for Catherine. The children who ran to her with their arms wide open had not been briefed on her cancer diagnosis. They had no idea about the difficult years she had survived. They simply responded to a person who was present, warm, and genuinely there for them. You cannot manufacture that. You either have it or you do not. Stars fade. They depend on media cycles, on constant self-renewal, on the next project and the next content drop. Institutions endure because they are built on something that cannot be bought, branded, or announced into existence. Italy was not the beginning of this story. It was the moment the ending became impossible to ignore. A woman alone in a foreign country, speaking the local language, getting down on the floor with children she had never met, while thousands of people who had driven 3 hours through the countryside stood in the street and roared. No handlers choreographing the moment, no carefully timed photo release, no vow renewal on the horizon, just 20 years of real work, finally visible to the whole world at once.